Have you ever been told that you need to improve your golf posture? If so, then this video is for you. I'm going to help you understand what optimal golf posture should look like, how you can apply this better in the golf swing, and how you can improve that physically in the gym to help make it easier when in the golf swing. When we watch pro golfers on TV, all of them seemingly have brilliant golf postures. Yet when we look at club amateurs, we often see common themes. Typically, we see a lot of golfers address the ball with very rounded upper backs, their hips squashed forward, or sat where they feel like they're pushing their bum out, lots of knee bend, and a forward head position. This changes how they can move dynamically in the golf swing and can often lead them to compensate from a technical perspective into impact. Yet when we look at good players, we see a common theme. We typically see a little bit more upright, but with a straighter back. Although we're not looking to be dead straight, we see a head position, an arm position that is roughly hanging in line with the toes, and we see a hip and pelvic position that is under the spine. So it's not sat too far back and it's not pushed forward. How we get into this position is often down to awareness, it's down to understanding, it's down to what we perceive to be correct versus what actually is correct, and also, really importantly, what you're physically able to do. Can you actually get into these positions from a physical standpoint, or do you go with what feels natural? So here I'm using the Gravity Fit band. This band is perfect for understanding where your posture is and gives you instant feedback. So as you can see with the Gravity Fit band, when I place it on, I've got two connection points with my shoulder blades. If I was to pull my shoulder blades back, I can feel those three connection points. So the center of the spine and the two shoulder blades. If I was to round my back and my shoulders, I lose that connection. So that instantly gives me an understanding of where my shoulder blades or my scapulars are and what I need to do to change my spinal position to create that feeling. This instantly then gives an idea of, can we actually move? Do we have the function through the thoracic spine in flexion and extension to actually create the position we're looking for? If you do, we're then able to get a greater understanding of, can we keep that connection point and can we get the club onto the ground without losing that connection point? If we then lose that connection point where we start to round, we can start to look lower around the core and into the hips of how we are pushing the hips. So if we create that connection point, apply a little bit of knee bend where we're almost sat into the ground, so a bit of pressure to the floor, and we're going to feel like we push the hips slightly backwards. So almost pressure is going more towards the heels. From here, we should now be able to just continue down until we are in that golf posture. So straight away, I've got those three connection points, the middle of the spine and the two shoulder blades. My back is in a natural or neutral straight position. My arms are hanging underneath me, and my pelvis and my center of gravity is in the correct space. This now allows me to be in the right setup position to move dynamically in the golf swing. If you want to measure the posture in the same way I've just shown you, you can access the Gravity Fit band through the link in the description below and use the code for a 10% discount. This will help you understand where you currently are at and how you're going to improve it. Do you need technical focus and work on the driving range, or do you need more work in the gym, or a combination of the two? If you need more work in the gym, I'm going to take you through a number of exercises now that will improve the physical components needed to create a more optimal golf posture. In this first exercise, we're going to focus on a dead hang. Now, this is the single best exercise, in my opinion, that we can do to essentially stretch out the whole body, especially that rib cage and that spine that we've been talking about that needs to be really functional for optimal posture. This exercise is going to be quite demanding on the grip. So depending on your grip strength, you can also use a resistance band just to take a little bit of stress off. It's a super simple exercise to do. All we're going to need is a pull-up bar. We're just going to go into a neutral grip or an overhand grip, whichever's easiest, and we're just simply going to let ourselves hang. So we're not swinging, and we're trying to feel like we're essentially letting our body weight drop into the floor. So gravity is pulling us down and stretching out, decompressing that whole body. You're going to feel it in quite a lot of different areas depending on where you're most tight. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but just go with it. And over the weeks, build up the amount of time you are holding it for. In this exercise, we're going to focus on improving the back extensor muscles. These muscles are really important to feeling like we can stand really tall and create range of motion without slouching. In this particular variation, I'm going to use a bench. However, you can do this on the floor to find out which one's most effective for you. So starting with a bench on a slight incline, you're going to simply lie on your front with your chin on the edge of the bench, with your feet firmly on the ground, so almost feeling like you're pushing your big toes into the floor. You're very simply just going to try and lift your chest off the bench. So you should feel some real engagement here. You might feel a little bit in the lower back, but don't worry about that to begin with. And as you lift, you're going to feel like you almost bring your arms up to the ceiling. So you're almost squeezing those shoulder blades together as you go. Try and hold that for a few seconds at the top, and then try and increase your range of motion as you warm up through the set. Ideally, you want to be focusing comfortably for 12 to 15 reps with this, because we're trying to improve some endurance through these back extensor muscles. In this next exercise, we're going to focus on trying to get some mobility through the rib cage in a rotational fashion, because obviously we want to be able to have complete function of the thoracic spine. We're also going to integrate this into an area that mobilizes the hip as well, because of how that hip and that thoracic spine interconnect through the spine. So all we're going to do, we're going to go into a kneeling or a half kneeling position with the focus on getting a wide or a long stretch forward. We're going to bring both hands in the middle. Now you can have your back knee off the floor, but in this particular variation, we're going to put it down so it's a little bit easier. From here, we're going to simply just rotate the chest into the front of the hip. And you can see as I'm rotating, I'm turning the chest, I'm turning the shoulder, and I'm looking to the hand. So I'm getting maximal rotation through my thoracic spine by turning around the hip joint. With this, we want to focus between 8 to 12 repetitions, keeping a good controlled motion, holding it for a second or two at the top. In this next exercise, we're going to go into a single leg bridge, but with a cycling motion. This is going to help strengthen up the glute and the core area, which is obviously great for being able to control posture more dynamically. So all we're going to do, lying on the floor, putting the feet flat to the floor as far back as you can get them, shoulder width apart, arms across the chest, and we're going to drive the hips to the ceiling. Really important that we feel like we squeeze those glute muscles as tight as possible and get a straight line here. This is locking out the core. From here, we're going to lift one knee off the floor, so we create a 90-degree angle, keeping those hips up, so resisting them from dropping down. In a controlled manner, we're just going to do a cycling type motion, which is then having to stabilize that standing leg and being more dynamic through the core. Again, we're looking for 12 plus reps, trying to get some endurance and some stability in the key areas. In this next exercise, we're going to focus on a kneeling side plank. Obviously, this is going to improve core stability, especially through the trunk, but it's also going to give you an idea of how that optimal posture that we've talked about can be integrated into a more strength manner. To start with, we're just going to put one knee on top of the other. We're going to feel like there's a line on the floor, so if you can choose something where you put the knee on, the hip on, and the elbow on, that's directly underneath the shoulder, opposite hand on top of the hip, and then we want to drive through the knee, getting the hips up, so essentially bridging it up in a side position. Now the key here is, instead of having the hips sat back and rounded, we want to feel like the hips are driving forward, the glute muscles are tight, the chest is out, the head is back, and we're in that optimal posture as if we're stood upright. The aim here is to hold this position for at least 30 seconds, and obviously improve that over time, working on both sides. If you're a golfer who does struggle with their golf posture, and you've been through this assessment and tried out the exercises, comment below, let me know which areas you feel you struggle with the most. And if you want to understand how you can also use this Gravity Fit band, make sure to check out this video next that talks through how you can use this in your golf swing to create better rotation.